We get to meet so many people in our coaching, in our CEO dinners. We've just started our CEO lunch series for the mastermind. And here's one of the things that I've realized is, whether we've had people there making 100 million plus, we've had people making their first 100,000, we've had everybody in between, different industries, different ages, different sectors. They all have the same problem. It's when they get to the precipice of wherever they're at, it's converting to that next level. That next level transition is one of the hardest things any business owner has to deal with, whether it's your first transition or your 10th transition. But when you're moving up and over the hill and beyond and to the next level of what you're doing, that's what I'm hearing, Tom. That's what I'm hearing in all these conversations. It's the same problem over and over again. Why do you think, Tom, why do you think people have such a tough time, even if they've gone to another level before, still going to the next level? What's the difficulty with the change and all that? What are you seeing?
What I'm seeing is people say that they don't know how because they forgot what they did the last time, and they're unsure because they think they got to go to this next level, and that things have to be done differently when they don't necessarily have to be done differently. You just have to think through it differently, and you maybe have to approach or change your directive, but it's like this constant, I don't know what the next step is, when most of them know what the next step is. It's just that I think that the idea of going to another level pushes them down that step, so to speak, and says, "Nope, you're not ready to go there." I think it really comes down to believing in themselves, right? It's like, oh, did they believe that they got here? And now that they're here, they don't believe they can get to the next step. Is it a belief thing? Or is it just simply, I don't know how because I really don't know how? And it's something like that. But there's also a lot of dissatisfaction and frustration that you see at that level too. Like they're just, they let the frustration and the overwhelm of the situation because they can't go to that next level on their own, or they're not sure what to do. There's that bit of frustration and dissatisfaction that sets in too. But it's more, for me, is do they believe in themselves?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the people that are at that point where they are almost required to go to the next level to feel challenged. They raise their standards so high. They've really learned how to do many of these things, and things come very simply to them now. And they expect those kind of results from everybody else, and it's a tough time for them to let go and allow somebody else to take the reins on some task or some project or some thing that has to be done inside their business because they're like, man, I've become an expert at this. And that's the thing you said, they think they have to do different things and they don't. You're right. Sometimes they don't, but most times they do because what got them to that million is not really going to take them to 5 million. What got them to we have one guy we were talking with the other day. Actually, he's coming tonight. He got to 6 million. Well, to go to 25 million, which is really what the belief is, you can't do the same things that got you to 6 million. It's just, that's not going to work. Some of the underlying tactics still need to be done. Okay. But we don't grow the same way we've grown before. It is in many, many, many different ways new. It's a brand new company. And, Tom and I always say to people that you're always building two companies. You're always working on two companies. You're always managing two companies. It's the one that you're in and the one that you're becoming. And the thing is you have to work on them simultaneously. You have to constantly pay attention to both of those things, both of those businesses, both of those requirements. And what happens is the requirement that you have of yourself is the most important thing. You're going to have to look at this business a little bit differently as you progress. And you will essentially look at your role differently then. You'll look at the people who you bring in to help you. You look at the people who are here already helping you differently. They're still going to do the same things, right? If you generate revenue doing a certain process, that process doesn't need to change. It needs to have something added on top of it that's brand new. And that's the thing I've seen with all these people. It's like they've done it time and time again. And I'm at a point where I don't feel like starting over again, but they're starting to realize they have to start all over again.
Well, and that I think is the thing that holds a lot of them back from going to the next level. They slip into that comfort mode, right? Somebody was there today that knows he's got to go to the next level, make a decision if he wants to or not. And it was really that he said, I'm comfortable where I'm at. And comfort is the worst thing for anyone who really wants to grow a business and get to that next level. Is you have to be uncomfortable. But it was just interesting to hear him use that. But I also think, letting go is such a difficult thing for a lot of people. because it represents change. It represents change that they're not used to. It represents that they have to start over, and people don't like to start over or have that feeling of starting over. But what I would encourage people to do in that situation where you know you got to get to that next level and you know a lot has to change, but you don't want to start over, you have to look at it as you get to start again, right? You get to start new, you get to start fresh. So whatever you learned that you have not implemented yet, it's now time to implement it. It's now
But
time to put that into place,
that's
right?
the
It's
painful part. That's the painful
yeah.
part is they're like, "Man, I just got here. Now I gotta start over again. Like, now I gotta learn all these new things." And, like, let's say you're selling ice cream cones and you figured out the perfect way and you're like, I could just open another store and do everything identically and do that." You can, but you have to now be the kind of person that manages 2 stores. And that
Mhm.
takes a different skill set, a different knowledge, a different thought process, a different planning, different strategy. Yeah, the internal underlying businesses, those 2 little shops that you have there may run exactly the same, but the person who's overseeing them, which could be you or could be your management staff, has to now look at that differently. We have 2 things. And that's the trouble is everyone that we've come across is like, I don't understand. I'm doing more. I'm putting more effort, putting more people, putting more energy, spending more on ads, making my SOPs more effective, more efficient. And I can't seem to cross, and whatever the boundary is, I can't seem to cross this boundary. And it's simply because they're not looking at what's missing to cross that boundary. And that's really what it comes down to is looking at your business, looking at you as the operator of it and say, all right, what's missing to go to that next level? And it's almost always not more of what you've already done. Yes, you're still going to have to do that too. You're going to have to add more people and have more products and have more sales and have more everything. You're going to have that. But there's something that has to oversee all of that. There's something that has to guide all that. There's something that has to plan all of that. There's someone that has to make sure that both what you used to do and now what you're doing are executing to the way that's going to allow for yet another level, because that's what growth is. And this is why most businesses stall at a certain point. There's a lot, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, but there's a lot of small businesses that kind of just hit a ceiling of about $3 million of top line revenue and never go beyond that. And that sounds sexy. I know for some of you listen to, you're like, man, I wish I had $3 million top line revenue. I'd be great if I. That's top line. That doesn't mean they're getting paid. We were with a guy the other day, and he's doing $20 million. Okay, it's a 12.5% margin. That's $3 million, and that all doesn't go to him. Okay. So it sounds like $20 million. That's amazing. Yeah, but the profit's only 3 million. Yes, he pays himself a salary, but if you're a business owner, you're paying yourself a reasonable salary. That's all it really is. And yes, maybe some of your expenses come out of the business that are actually allowed to come out of the business. But yeah, at the end of the day, when you distribute money to yourself, you're making a decision. Am I paying taxes or not? And even this guy, he's like, I'm going to buy more trucks. I'm going to do more. I'm going to grow my business. So it's never really all coming back to you. Right. So that's the thing is if you get stuck at the $3 million mark, how much are you really taking home at that point? It may not be the value of all the effort that you've put into this thing. And you're like frustrated. And people like from the outside look at you and like, why are you complaining? Why are you upset? Why are you disappointed? And it's like, yeah, well, the reason is because I really don't benefit as much as even my employees do from this thing. And that's a difficult position to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, that is. And I was reflecting on, people don't like to look at what's missing because they like to think that they figured it out all the way. And that's part of why they sometimes can't admit that something is missing. And that's why they can't get to that next step. I mean, I've looked at this as, and I've always joked how I've run my son as a business for baseball. And at each level, as he got to each level, right? Like when he's in T-ball, yeah, I was okay to coach him. But then when he hit 10 or 11, I stopped coaching him and got him a real coach. And then, when he went to high school, I got him the dietitian and the trainer and all this other stuff. And at each level, I've constantly added in the missing pieces so he can get to this level of varsity baseball and hopefully now college D1 baseball. But if you don't acknowledge that there's something missing, you're never going to find the thing that's missing, or you're not going to even think about what's missing. And I think that's part of what people get trapped in is they don't look at what's missing because they thought, oh, I got to this point. I did really good. I must have done everything I was supposed to do the right way. And they don't ask that question, what is missing? And you have to be willing to see that you didn't do it perfectly, that you're not perfect and there is something missing, and that all you may have to do is add that little missing piece, and that changes the whole trajectory of everything. It's that little, that little pebble, that little snowball that starts out before you can build momentum into this big ball. Like it's just that little thing, just answering that question of what's missing, and all along it may have been in front of you and you didn't realize it, or it was never in front of you. And now you have to look at it and learn about it and immerse yourself in what needs to happen next. But if you don't ask that question, you're never going to crack that code to what's next.
Well, so there you go. You're identifying the problem is it's not necessarily even asking the question. Well, yes, you have to ask the question, but the problem really is when you ask the question, how do you really find an answer? And the thing is that most people are asking the question under pressure, right? And it's they're not intentionally setting time aside to say, hey, let me plan out the next level of my life or my business. There, most of us as business owners are putting out fires. I mean, that's really we're firefighters. That's what most of our jobs are, whatever the problem is. And some people may look at those problems and be like, how is that a problem? Oh no, you have to pay too much in taxes. How is that a problem? Well, it is a problem. It is a problem when you have cash flow and you have to pay employees and you have things going on. Why is it a problem that you have no time to go on vacation because you have so many clients? Oh, that's a real problem. Or vice versa. Oh my God, you can only go on 2 vacations. You need to go on 4 because you have to break away. But no, these are real problems. And the thing is, all of those problems as they come, you're dealing with them and you're trying to carve out a moment here, a moment there to really think about the long-term future. And you wouldn't treat anything that way. You wouldn't treat the way you build your products or your services, the way you deliver those things to your clients in momentary, reactionary, under pressure environments. You would sit down when you created your offer for whatever it is that you provide to the world. You didn't just say, all right, hold on, let me answer the email quickly. Let's do this thing. I think I should do this. I think I should do that. All right, put the offer out there. You took time. But the thing is, you won't take the same amount of time for yourself, for your own future, for your own role in the business that you own. And that's really a shame that you no longer get this. When you started this business, you didn't just like turn on the lights and go to work. It was a big commitment. It was a giant risk that you were scared shitless to take. And that's the same thing when you go to the next level. But you
Mhm.
pondered it. You worked it out. You have some kind of a strategy and plan to say, all right, here's how I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and get started. It wasn't random. It wasn't in a moment. And it was definitely not under some ridiculous kind of pressure. And yeah, I'm sure there's people out there who are like, no, I started under pressure. I hated my job. I didn't like this. I needed the money. I got laid off, whatever it had been. It could have been that, but you still gave it the time and thought to really say, here's what I'm going to do next. And that's what you're doing. It's here's what I'm going to do next. It's not how am I going to do more of what I'm already doing. And there's a key differentiator to give yourself that space to say, all right, what am I really going to be doing next? And the coolest part about this whole process is you get to decide that. No one's deciding that for you. But do you give yourself the chance to decide that? Or are you letting other people decide that for you, whether it's your clients, your calendar, your family, your employees? Like you get to decide this and you shouldn't just give up that right.
It's 100% true, man. Because any decision out of emotion, fear, whatever, it doesn't allow you to make the right one. And it puts that extra pressure. We saw that today with that. We had a woman in the room that kept saying she was forced into going to business with somebody else. She was forced because somebody passed away and now she had to take care of herself and she was forced into it. And now she's ready to she's not sure what she wants to do next. And that's the thing when you go in with the wrong intention, and this is why it's so important to take the step back, really remove the emotion from the situation and really analyze everything in front of you, figure it out with a clear head. Because if you can't figure out with a clear head, then you're not going to make the right decisions. And that's really the case for a lot of people.
And
And a lot of
And even
people
sometimes with a clear head, you still don't have the ability to do that, and this is look, this is always it's always a long commercial for coaching, everything that we do, and of course, we want you to use us, but you have to go out there and get third party opinions and have someone help you along that, and it could even just be a friend.
Mhm.
Right? We sit here and we work through our clients of what's really going on and what is missing, right? And we help to explore that because you probably heard this cliche of you can't see the forest through the trees. And what that means is you're too close to it, right? You're too close to everything to really see what's beyond it. And we are literally talking about what is beyond the tree in front of you. And if you ducked your head aside, you might be able to see 5 more trees, but somebody else can look up above from it and see the whole forest. And that's what that cliche means. That's what we're talking about. When you have somebody that's outside of what you do, looking at it with you, looking at your business, looking at your opportunity, looking at your concerns, this allows you to start exploring what could be. And then
Mhm.
essentially what is missing to get there. And that's really all it is. There's a destination. You're at a place and you want to go somewhere else. You probably don't really know where you want to go. And more importantly, why you want to go there. But those are the types of questions that you have to ask. Those are the type of explorations that you have to take. You know, some people just go on vacation to the same place over and over and over again because it's familiar and there's something missing. They want to explore something else because they don't even know where to look. Like, I have no clue. So, what do they do most of the time? They ask the other people, hey, where do you go on vacation? Where have you gone?
Right.
My family and I went to an amazing lake, Great Sacandaga Lake last year. We rented this beautiful house and it was secluded on 5 acres of property. It was just beautiful. I would have never experienced that if I didn't ask somebody else, hey, where do you go on your summer vacations? I'm looking to go to lake. And they're like, I own a lake house here. And it's like, oh my gosh, like that's a beautiful place to go. But I had to ask for some outside information that was unbiased. They weren't going on vacation with me. They weren't going to be like, I want to go here, so let's go there. And that's why working with somebody in any capacity, whether you pay for them or you borrow their time or you barter service or whatever it is so useful as an exploration tool to see what is. That's what it really is about. But you can't keep banging your head against that ceiling. And yeah, if you're good here, if you're good at this place, good. But then you still have another job. It's still the business you're in, the business you're becoming. Because if you're good here, well, don't you want to make that as efficient and effective as possible so you can either increase your margin or increase the time and get that time back for yourself to enjoy? So you're still, even if you're like, I don't need to make more money, Adam and Tom, I'm good here. Well, great. Can't we make more money in less time? Or can't we make more money to give our employees more money and make them happier if you're really so selfless? Like, there's still other things you have to do. Because if you're at the point where this is good enough, sell the business. There's nothing wrong with
Right.
that either. But man, you know there's something else to do. It's just figuring out what is next.